I'm here to talk about why men should support gender equality. It's going to be short. Because it's right. Because it's fair. Because it's just. Because it's democratic. As my current hero, Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister of Canada, said, when he had appointed half of his cabinet as women, he was asked by a curious journalist, what's up with that? And he said, because it's 2015. It's just that simple. But I found it's not quite that simple. I found that selling the ethical imperative to men, that it's right and fair and just, doesn't get us quite so far. And so what I want to talk about is I'm going to tell you two stories that illustrate why men don't support gender equality, and then suggest, through some other story, how we might begin to engage men. The first, and I think the answer is contained in the phrase gender equality. And I'll take them separately. The first reason that men don't support gender equality is because we don't know that we have a gender. We don't know that gender matters to us. When you hear the word gender, we think women. Teach a course at a university called Psychology of Women, you get 95% women. Teach a course called Psychology of Gender, you get 90% women. Most men don't know that gender is as important to us as women understand it is to them. And this is political. So I'm going to tell you my own story about how I first started thinking about this. It's a story that takes place 30 years ago and will be very obvious that it's anachronistic to you now. But 30 years ago when I was in graduate school, a bunch of us got together, graduate students, and we said, you know, there's an explosion of writing and thinking in feminist theory, but there's no courses yet. So we did what graduate students typically do. We said, okay, let's have a study group. We'll get together once a week, we'll read a text, we'll talk about it, we'll have a potluck dinner. So every week, 11 women and me got together. We would read a text and talk about it. And during one of our meetings, I witnessed a conversation between two women that changed everything for me. One of the women was white, and one was black. And the white woman said, here comes the part that's anachronistic, the white woman said, all women have the same experience as women. All women face a common oppression as women, and therefore all women have a kind of intuitive solidarity or sisterhood. And the black woman said, I'm not so sure. Let me ask you a question. So the black woman says to the white woman, when you wake up in the morning and you look in the mirror, what do you see? And the white woman said, I see a woman. And the black woman said, you see, that's the problem for me. Because when I wake up in the morning and I look in the mirror, she said, I see a black woman. To me, race is visible. But to you, race is invisible. You don't see it. And then she said something really startling. She said, that's how privilege works. Privilege is invisible to those who have it. It is a luxury, I will say to the white people sitting in this room, not to have to think about race every split second of our lives. Privilege is invisible to those who have it. So remember, I was the only man in this group. So when they said this, I went, oh no. And somebody said, well, what was that reaction? And I said, well, when I wake up in the morning and I look in the mirror, I see a human being. I'm kind of the generic person. I'm a middle-class white man. I have no race, no class, no gender. I'm universally generalizable. So that was the moment I became a middle-class white man. That class and race and gender were not about other people, but they were about me. I had to start thinking about them. And it had been privileged. It had kept it invisible to me for all that time. So the first task, I believe, is that we have to engage men by making gender visible. And in doing so, remember, that's political. It means making privilege visible. Now, the second obstacle to engaging men is the word equality. I think many men believe that gender equality is a zero-sum game. If women win, men will lose. I was on a TV talk show not long ago opposite four men who I came to call angry white men. This is before the current presidential election campaign in our country. These were four white men who believed that they, white men, were the victims of reverse discrimination in the workplace. And they all told stories about how they were qualified for jobs, qualified for promotions, didn't get them, really angry. And then it was my turn to speak. And the reason I'm telling you this story is I want you to hear the title of this show, which was a quote from one of these men. The title was, "A Black Woman Stole My Job." Guys all told their stories, qualified for jobs, qualified for promotions, didn't get them, really angry. And then it was my turn to speak. And I said, I have one question for you guys. And it's about the title of the show, A Black Woman Stole My Job. Actually, it's about one word in the title. I want to know about the word my. Where did you get the idea it was your job? Why isn't the title of the show A Black Woman Got a Job or A Black Woman Got the Job? Because without confronting men's sense of entitlement, we will never understand why so many men resist gender equality. Because we think this is a level playing field. We think, if you tilt it even a little bit, oh my God, water's rushing uphill, it's reverse discrimination against us. So let me be very clear. White men in Europe and the United States, we are the beneficiaries of the single greatest affirmative action program in the history of the world. It is called the history of the world. So, these are the obstacles to engaging men for gender equality. We don't see gender, and we feel entitled to the positions that we have. And these are the ways I think we have to engage with men. So, how do we do that? I think we also have to engage with men not just as men, but rather, I believe, in our relationships that we already live in. I think that we often do a disservice. Men come into the conversation about gender equality already defensive. You're going to blame me for everything and resistant. And my feeling is that we have to say to men, you already know how to do this. In fact, you're already doing it. Every man I've met knows what it feels like to love a woman and want her to thrive. Because we're not just men. We are also fathers and sons and grandsons and grandfathers and partners and lovers and husbands and brothers and friends. We know what it feels like to care about women, to want them to thrive. And I think it's in those relationships. We're not asking men to be different. We're asking them to be more authentically themselves. We are asking them to not only walk their talk, but talk their walk. We're already doing this. You want to meet an instant feminist? Talk to a father whose young daughter has just hit puberty. And he's going to say, oh my God, there's boys out there who are looking at my daughter the way I was taught to look at girls. This has got to stop. Those of you who are fans of the satirical newspaper The Onion, they had a headline recently that said, Eminem furious that his daughter is dating someone raised on Eminem's music. He just decided to look at his own lyrics with a new eye as a dad. So my argument is, what we know as axiomatic, we know we cannot fully empower women and girls without engaging boys and men. And the way to engage boys and men, we shouldn't have to. It's right and it's fair and it's just. But it is also in our interest. It is also in our interest in the relationships that we already have. So we're not asking men to be different. We're asking them to be more authentically themselves. Thank you very much.